Good morning, everyone. I'm going to play the first few seconds of a phone call I recorded. My wife decided to allow me to use her as a guinea pig. So I'm not going to play the whole thing. I didn't actually know I was going to get such an amazing introduction, so that means I get to skip the bio slide, which is awesome. And this was not staged, this was real time.
Hi. I'm sorry. I don't even know if this is the right place to call. I didn't know where else to go. I'm tired. Just really tired. I don't know who I am anymore. I used to be someone who had faith, who believed, prayed. I even led a small group. But now I'm just numb. Like I'm watching my life happen from far away.
It sounds like you're carrying something heavy, and I want you to know you're not alone right now. The Lord sees your weariness, and He's near to the brokenhearted. That sense of feeling disconnected, like you're just watching your life unfold without being fully in it. That's something many people of deep faith have experienced. You're not broken, and you're not alone. Even the strongest believers walk through seasons of numbness, doubt, and silence. This season doesn't define your faith. It reveals just how much your soul longs for connection. Was there something that happened that began this season? Or did it just slowly drift in over time?
As life has gotten harder, I'm not even sure what I believe anymore. I believe in God, well, I think. But sometimes I wonder if He's forgotten me. I feel invisible, even to Him.
That ache you just voiced, it's real, and I want you to hear this clearly. You are not invisible to God. I know it feels that way. When life gets harder and the prayers feel like they're just bouncing off the ceiling, it's easy to wonder if God's still there, or if He ever really saw you in the first place.
That conversation is actually about a few minutes longer than that, but I didn't want to bore everybody. That entire conversation felt like a wise, compassionate pastor on the other end of the phone, didn't it? He quoted scripture. He acknowledged pain. Well, he actually quotes scripture in a couple minutes, but we're not going to listen to the whole thing. He offers grace. He gives hope. He even ends up praying for her in the phone call, and that prayer is compelling. But as you all can probably guess, that was not a human. It was essentially code. It wasn't a pastor. It wasn't somebody listening with love or concern or kindness. It was essentially an algorithm trained to mimic empathy. It didn't feel her grief. It didn't pray for her after the call. It wasn't a soul. It didn't have the Holy Spirit moving it. It was software. And here's the kicker. Well, if I paid for a little bit more of a realistic voice, that could have felt real. So where I'm going with that is AI isn't evil, but it is powerful. It's not just shaping the way that we shop or we search. It's shaping how people think, feel, and even explore faith. We can't ignore its potential, its influence, or its shortcomings. I didn't know I was going to get such an awesome intro. So real quick, again, my name is Chris Page. I'm not going to go over the quick bio, but I will say that I've seen innovation both from the business side and from the ministry side. This talk isn't about just the tech side of AI. It's about its scale, its reach, and its influence, and also where it's headed, who's shaping it, and the role that we are called to play. Now, before we get started, I've spoken on this topic actually a couple times in the last year. I spoke to a venture capital group out in San Jose, California last year, just talking about the idea of balancing technological innovation with ethics. And then I had almost the same conversation in Chattanooga, Tennessee, about 4 months later. In San Jose, talking about the future of development, the future of technology, the future of AI development, what's actually happening right now, nobody blinked an eye. I started talking about biblical values and how our ethics and values should drive and govern how we innovate. I lost half the room. Now, as you can imagine, or probably guess where I'm going with this, Chattanooga, Tennessee, very, very different experience. Almost the same conversation, but there, everybody on board. Biblical values, yeah, kingdom, yeah, let's go. I start talking about where AI is going, even in the next year. And everybody's like, you've seen the Terminator too many times, Chris. We're not going there. And I'm just like, okay, we are going there. Whether or not you choose to believe it, honestly, is irrelevant. Because the future is going to happen, and it's going to happen really, really quickly. And if we decide to stay on the sidelines, or if we just decide to put our heads in the sand, then we are not going to bring any kingdom values to what that looks like going forward. So you'll notice the slides are a little text heavy. I'm going to cover a lot of info. The slides are going to be available for download. There'll be a QR code at the end of the presentation, so don't feel like you got to take a bunch of notes. If you find anything interesting, you can grab it afterwards. Let's see. So moving on, here's where we're headed the next few minutes. We'll start with the why AI matters for ministry and for business, and that this topic is not just for tech companies or coders. Then we'll look at what's actually changing, how current AI works, what it's already doing, and where it will be very soon. From there, we'll look at the tension, the opportunities that AI gives us, the risks that it can bring, especially when we start outsourcing decisions, connection, and even care. Then we'll shift toward action, a biblical framework to help us guide ethical technology decisions, real ministry and business use cases, and the necessity of biblically grounded leaders leaning in and not checking out. My hope, you'll walk out of this a little more informed, maybe a little more equipped, maybe slightly unsettled, but if nothing else, a whole lot more intentional. So I hope everybody has a sense of humor. Let's poke a little fun at our conference for just a second. When you read something that sounds smart, wise, emotional, even spiritual, can you tell if it was written by a person or a machine? No, most people can't. And as you can guess, that's the whole idea. AI has gotten really, really good at imitating language that feels meaningful, but it's not feeling or passionate about anything. It's just a very complex algorithm predicting the most likely next word or phrase. That's literally how AI works right now. Today's content, today's conversations, they're already almost indistinguishable and will only get more so. And that, honestly, that should get our attention. The moment we can't tell if something is real or artificially generated is when ethical boundaries and discernment become essential. So, for fun, I gave ChatGPT a simple prompt. Write homepage copy for a Christian business conference focused on purpose, kingdom impact, and biblical leadership. The result, a polished page full of phrases like maximize your influence for the glory of God and gain wisdom, share expertise. On the surface, it sounded great, but looking closer, it was basically just a thesaurus of Christian business buzzwords. No real substance, no unique voice. This is what can happen when we let algorithms alone define our message or be our voice. It may sound wise or spiritual, but it often actually says nothing of real value, just a blender of relevant buzzwords and catchphrases. So sorry, I just had fun with this the other night. Even our session titles aren't immune. Faith, freedom, and fairness, work is worship, navigating innovation with integrity. They sound great. They're phenomenal topics. But honestly, they also sound like they came out of the same content generator. AI is trained to recognize what gets engagement, and it turns that into templates that it reuses over and over. Well, y'all are here, so I guess it works. If we're not careful, it doesn't just help us brainstorm. It starts to tell us how to speak, how to brand ourselves, and if we're not careful, how to start thinking. We're not just automating content generation. We are dangerously close to outsourcing our voice, our conviction, and even our value system. And that is a line we do not want to cross. So, why are we even talking about AI? Here's the short version. It's already here, it's already around us, it is already shaping our lives every single day, whether we asked it to or not. It's in your Google search, it's in your Spotify Smart Shuffle playlist recommendations, it's in your smart thermostat. It filters what shows up on your news feeds, your social feeds. It impacts what your kid's friend sees at midnight when they type in, "What's the meaning of life?" into ChatGPT. It's not just changing how we work, it's changing how we think, how we relate, and even how people explore faith. One of the top topics that people ask ChatGPT are spiritual, faith-based questions like, who is God? What's the meaning of life? Is there anything after I die? When should I forgive someone? The moral framework for AI is already being written, but it's mostly being written by developers, executives, and regulators who are not thinking about spiritual formation or really even human dignity. If we aren't part of the conversation, we're just going to inherit whatever system someone else builds. And the reality is, we may not like what it becomes. So, a quick background on where AI even came from. It didn't just show up one day and start writing emails and sermons. It's been evolving for decades, mostly behind the scenes. In 1950, Alan Turing famously asked the question, can machines think? And that was the starting gun. In 1997, AI beat the world chess champion, and then came voice assistants like Siri, well, I would debate how smart Siri is, and eventually even self-driving cars. But the big leap, generative AI, tools like ChatGPT, Midjourney, Claude, creating human-like, human-sounding content at scale. What used to be science fiction is now Thursday at the office. And the pace of advancements isn't just fast, it is a tsunami right now. So real quick, how it works. Here's the short explanation without getting too nerdy. Generative AI is essentially trained on ridiculous amounts of content. Books, blogs, Reddit threads, Wikipedia, sermons, every publicly available piece of music or picture, pretty much anything you can get to on the internet. The AI magic is it predicts what most likely comes next in a sentence over and over. That's it. It doesn't understand anything. It just gets really, really, really good at pattern recognition. Images, music work the same way, pixel by pixel, note by note. So when it gives you an answer that feels insightful or empathetic, much like our pastor hotline call a few minutes ago, don't be fooled. It's not thinking, and it's certainly not feeling. It's just remixing the internet to generate something new. Well, newish. And depending on what it's trained on and how it's guided, it can be an amazing tool to unlock insights and generate endless variations of relevant content and ideas. But without the right guidance and oversight, it can be the match to ignite a dehumanizing, moral and ethical downward spiral. So, if AI truly doesn't understand anything, what can it actually do? My guess is probably everyone in this room has interacted at least with a ChatGPT or something else. We all know it can write stories, it can even paint portraits, it can code software really well, it can compose symphonies, it can synthesize wisdom and empathy, it can hold conversations that feel real and pastoral. It can personalize your Amazon homepage so well you forget it's a store. It can help doctors detect cancer, and it can also generate fake news at scale, as we've seen. AI is already doing performance reviews and making hiring and firing decisions. Should we be concerned when it starts managing people instead of just managing data? It's not good at everything, but it's really, really good at enough things to be disruptive and influential. And that influence is only going to get more pervasive. And when you combine that with automation, personalization, predictive analytics, you've got something that can influence lives, for better or for worse, way, way beyond just tasks and convenience and answering a question. So let's talk a little bit about AI's near future. Not 10 years out, but what you'll see in the next year or two. Imagine an AI that knows your calendar, knows your energy levels, knows your kid's soccer schedule, and reschedules your meeting because it knows, man, I'm just running on empty today. Or a healthcare system that flags an early signs of an illness before you feel a single symptom. Or a workplace AI that not only tracks productivity, but participates in meetings, works actively toward conflict resolution real time, suggests who might be feeling burned out, and then schedules a meeting for them to follow up. Not just helping us do more when we ask it to, it's proactively making decisions and acting on our behalf with as much autonomy as we give it. Helpful? Absolutely. But also, if not used well, potentially concerning. Especially if we're not careful about who is defining what good or right looks like. So, it may sound like it a bit, but believe it or not, this is not a panic session. This is not doomsday. This is not Terminator. There is a huge upside to AI if we steward the opportunity wisely. AI can free up your team from repetitive tasks. It can help surface insights you'd miss on your own. It can help you serve more people more personally. And when paired with human vision and values, it can push creativity even further. To be clear, I am definitely not anti-AI. What I am is anti-unquestioned, unguided, unchecked AI. So let's be excited about the potential of AI, but let's also remember, to quote Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, of course, the flip side of the coin. Every AI tool runs on data. That includes your texts, your clicks, your voice, your location, and if we're not careful, we go from using a tool to being the product. AI can also generate total nonsense, and very convincingly. ChatGPT will tell you 10% of its factual answers are just straight up wrong. It can reinforce bias. In business, it can make decisions and erase jobs without blinking. And it can also tempt us to treat machines as an infallible source of truth, as a primary source of wisdom, empathy, and moral authority. AI itself, it isn't good, it isn't bad, but it is powerful. And power always reveals what we value most. So the question is, are we shaping AI, or are we allowing AI to shape us? So this is where it gets interesting. Human identity in an AI world. And this is also where things are going to get a little blurry in the near future. Genesis 1:27 says we are made in the image of God. AI is made in the image of our data, and there's a big difference. It can simulate empathy, but it doesn't care. It can write a prayer, but it doesn't pray after the call ends. There's more to us than just logic and learning and productivity. We are wired for relationship, for worship, and made in God's image. And the moment we start confusing machine mimicry with human identity or worth, we begin to lose something. So when we talk about AI and hiring, ministry, therapy, whatever, we need to be very clear about what should be automated and what shouldn't be. I just ran across this the other day. Here's a really good example, in my opinion, of something that definitely should not be automated. Jesus. There's actually an AI Jesus. Somebody told me this. I actually thought they were pulling my leg because I told them about this conference. Oh, have you heard about AI Jesus? What are you talking about? There's actually an AI Jesus, a digital life-size hologram rendering of Jesus behind a confessional at a Catholic church in Switzerland, wired up to ChatGPT. It sounds crazy, but as many as 2/3 of those who interact with AI Jesus reportedly say they had, quote, a positive or spiritual experience.
At the 300-year-old St. Peter's Chapel in Lucerne, Switzerland, inside this confessional booth is an AI-generated version of Jesus Christ.
Hello, Jesus.
A lifelike avatar on a computer screen, answering questions in real time, offering advice to the faithful based on scripture in over 100 languages.
Let kindness and compassion steer your course.
It's called Deus in Machina, or God in the Machine, and was developed by a Swiss IT expert using OpenAI's GPT-4o. The idea, the chapel's theologian said, is to explore the limits of human trust in technology.
Many people came to talk with him. There were young people, older people. People really talked with him in a serious way.
The experience comes with instructions and a disclaimer not to share personal information, but the church said most had a positive experience.
Topics like relationship, love, topics like about God. They ask him what to do.
Esto se está saliendo de control.
The virtual experiment generating debate and controversy worldwide.
This is not sacramental. This truly is just sacrilegious. This is ridiculous.
This is just the start of a big conversation around the role of AI in religion.
So, Kelly, we know this is in that particular church. Is there a chance it could spread to others?
possible. I mean, this church says that it was a huge success for them. They actually had people fill out questionnaires after using the avatar. About 300 people responded. 200 of them, the church said, reported having a very positive experience. And not only that, they say they've had interest from parishes, school teachers, and others, not just in Switzerland, but around the world. So the question for them now is whether they can turn this pilot project into something more permanent. They say one big advantage is that this avatar can be available 24/7, whereas a parish priest may not be. So maybe some sort of avatar on call, spiritual guidance on call.
But you know, Jesus, many believe, is also available 24/7, Kelly, but we won't get into that. All right.
Thank you, Kelly.
I like the real thing. All right, Al, what you got?
Look, on the bright side, we're talking about Jesus, so
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing.
Not.
Appreciate that closing by Al. So, with that very interesting segue, let's talk about biblical principles guiding AI usage. If we're going to talk about AI in the church or providing ethical guardrails for its usage, we need biblical grounding. The 4 values that I've come back to before. Number 1, stewardship. AI is a resource, a very powerful one, but still a resource. It's not a toy. It's certainly not a god. Are we going to manage it with wisdom and purpose and, honestly, humility? Human dignity. Every person matters more than the productivity gains, even if a machine can do their job faster or better. Justice and compassion. Are we building tools that elevate equality and fairness and inclusion, or are we just scaling indifference and reinforcing the same biases we already had? Accountability. Are we building in feedback, transparency, wise counsel, or are we just developing AI as fast as we can and hoping it just works out? The technology is not the enemy, but blind adoption without biblically grounded ethical oversight could be a recipe for relational erosion, both from each other and even from God. So, AI isn't just for tech companies. It's already showing up in churches all over the country, all over the world. Pastors are using AI for sermon prep. Not to write the whole thing, hopefully, but to brainstorm, research, structure thoughts. Churches are automating emails, event follow-ups, even tracking engagement to help spot when someone starts slipping through the cracks. There are tools offering personalized devotionals, even prayer prompts based on someone's reading habits or struggles. AI isn't a substitute for a pastor or a counselor, but it can be a supplement. If we use it well, it can help us extend reach and care. But if we misuse it, we can also allow it to replace human connection. So, practical ethical guidelines. If you're a leader, you are going to face decisions, whether or not to adopt a tool, how to deploy it, who it affects. So these are some of the filters that I would run any of those decisions through. First, does it help people actually thrive? Not just save time, not just optimize clicks or engagement. Is it making life better for the individuals that it touches? 2, who's in the room when we're making these decisions? If it's just technical voices, then we are going to miss something. Bring in theologians, pastors, ethicists. Bring in the people affected by the outcomes. 3, are we being honest about how it even works? Or are we hiding behind its AI magic and the business or productivity benefits? Number 4, what happens if it goes sideways? Who owns the consequences? Who answers for it? And who even fixes it? So this doesn't need to be a 30-page policy manual, but if we're not asking these kinds of questions, then we are not ready to use the tool. I'm going to be sharing a simple 1-page framework at the end of this presentation that has been a good reference for me in the past. So, some real-world examples. AI can absolutely help in so many ways. Speed, scale, brainstorming, content generation. But we can't forget, it does not carry our values. It does not know our voice. It does not know our context. And it definitely does not actually care about the people that we are called to lead and serve. What these examples show is simple. AI can supplement, it can streamline, it can scale, but it should not replace. We don't outsource our judgment, our values, or our voice to software. And we certainly do not treat it as an infallible source of truth, factual or spiritual. Because in the end, you are accountable for the decisions you make and the actions you take and that are taken on your behalf, not the algorithm. So let's talk about the future for a little bit. As I mentioned at the beginning, when I talk about these things, these are things that are being developed today. This is not science fiction. I know some of it sounds like it. We're going to talk about artificial general intelligence. So if the importance of speaking biblical ethics into the development and governance of AI maybe hasn't clicked for you yet, maybe it seems like the impact of current AI is just more like influence than disruption, let's talk about what it will look like in the next 2 to 5 years. AGI is the moment that AI moves beyond tasks and answering questions and becomes fully human level across the board. Reading, reasoning, planning, learning, even creativity. Like a human, but much, much faster. Unlike ChatGPT, AGI doesn't just simulate thinking. It actually understands, it plans, it adapts, and learns new skills on its own. Now, the upside is huge. It will unlock massive gains in productivity, medicine, education, scientific discovery. Well, the risks? It could also automate entire industries almost overnight, manipulate information on a global scale, and outthink humans in real time. AGI would be the first machine that could truly act on its own and keep improving itself without our help. It would likely accelerate the pace of innovation to a level that is hard to imagine, like going from the Industrial Revolution to the internet in just a few years. AGI is not just going to be a technical milestone, it is going to be a civilization milestone. And it is not science fiction. Billions in funding from governments, defense departments, venture capital firms are being poured into AI companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepMind, and others explicitly pursuing AGI. The timeline, like I mentioned, 2 years, 5 years, maybe 8. There's actually an interesting debate about that once AGI hits, how quickly it's going to improve upon itself, but that's a whole other conversation. It could be It could be humanity's greatest technological achievement, or it could be our most dangerous invention, depending on how wisely and how ethically we navigate its development, its guardrails, and its governance. And it really is right around the corner. So I was super encouraged by this actually the other day when I was getting ready for this presentation. Sam Altman, he's the CEO of OpenAI. They're the folks that make ChatGPT. He posted a blog post about 3 or 4 months ago, and I actually like listening to Sam. Some of his predictions are a little scary, but he actually approaches things with conviction, with humility. I have no idea what his faith foundation or faith background is. But even in this blog, he talks about needing to act with conviction, acknowledging complex and extremely high-stakes challenges ahead. He also says, we're going to start cranking out AGI by the end of 2025. He then goes on to talk about superintelligence, which we're going to talk about very briefly on the next slide. And he acknowledges this sounds like science fiction right now, but it's not. It's coming around the corner. He acknowledges the need to act with great care and why that is so important. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You can read it later if you want. But superintelligence is the massive leap beyond AGI. What happens next? While AGI matches human intelligence, superintelligence surpasses it in every possible way. Reason, creativity, emotion, strategy, problem solving. It doesn't just learn, it will outthink. Not faster than a person, faster than all of us put together. If AGI is lightning-fast human-level mind that can adapt, superintelligence is a mind that is literally beyond our comprehension. The potentials are staggering, It can solve problems we've failed at for decades, can manage economies, optimize infrastructure, predict disasters, redesign materials, discover new energy, create new forms of art, even plan missions to deep space and man them because we can't survive it. But as you can imagine, the risks are also as staggering. Guess what? A system smarter than us, it may decide it doesn't want to obey us anymore. Its actions may become unpredictable, unexplainable, even irreversible. And if its goals don't fully align with ours, well, I don't know what our chance may look like to course correct. Now, again, I know what you're thinking, conspiracy theory, tinfoil hats, you've seen the Terminator too many times, but this is a conversation already happening among the people building this technology. People just like Sam Altman a second ago. We're talking about systems that are going to evolve beyond us. Systems that will need to be governed by values and guardrails we haven't even agreed on yet, much less have any idea how to implement. So, if all this feels far-fetched, just know that governments are already moving quietly but urgently to prepare for this exact future. And this future, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, I don't know, but I know it's going to be in my kids' lifetime. So, faith-based voices in AI policy and culture. I've alluded to this a couple times. Here's the reality. Big tech is not waiting for us to catch up or even asking our opinion. And policymakers, most of them, honestly, they're still trying to figure out how to spell algorithm. Meanwhile, people of faith who actually care about justice, human dignity, moral truth, honestly, we are still mostly sitting on the sidelines. That can't continue. We need believers at the table when the systems get built, not just after the damage has been done. That means speaking into hiring practices, design ethics, data privacy, and foundational values in technology. It means showing up in boardrooms, classrooms, and conferences with more than just sound bites or inspirational quotes. AI is already shaping culture, and that won't change. The question is, are we going to be in the room to help shape the AI that's shaping us? So, here's what I hope you take away from this. The AI we build does reflect the values that we carry. If we prioritize human dignity, compassion, wisdom, integrity, the AI will reflect that. But if we don't, it'll absorb our blind spots, scale our bias and division, and turn them into default settings and answers. It will reshape truth into whatever gets the most engagement and the most clicks. This isn't the time to step back and see what happens. It's the time to step up and help set the tone of the conversation. Let's be the ones who lead, not just with technical skill or business sense, but with kingdom values. You don't have to be a coder. You don't have to be a tech whiz. You just have to care enough to speak up and help shape the moral, ethical, and spiritual fabric of our culture that will largely be woven by algorithms, whose magic is really just endlessly remixing and regurgitating whatever it's taught. So, ask hard questions. Speak into decisions. If something feels off, then say so. And if a tool starts filtering, speaking for, or replacing people, it's time to stop and reassess. That is the leadership that we desperately need in the age of artificial intelligence. Here's a one-page framework I'm going to be sharing with you guys that you can download at the end of the presentation here in a few minutes. I would use this not just for AI, but any technology that touches people, especially with any level of influence or autonomy. Again, I'll have a QR code here in a few minutes that you can grab that from. So a couple things, real quick, hot topics in AI development. Not everybody may be as much of a nerd as I am, so if you are not familiar with some of these topics, you probably will be in the not too distant future. AI agents, my gosh, that is all the buzz right now. Basically programs that can take action, not just answer questions. They can plan multi-step tasks, interact with websites and apps on your behalf, and work toward a goal. Anything from as simple as booking a vacation to offloading parts of your business. So, AutoGP, AI agents on steroids. An extreme version. You give AutoGPT a goal and it runs almost completely autonomously, creating its own sub-goals and just working and working and working until it thinks it's done. A great example, if you tell an AutoGP and a bot to start a business, it Googles how, it registers the business, it'll deploy a website, solicit funding, find suppliers, write marketing copy, and launch ads. I've actually seen this demo. No human interaction required once you tell it go. Well, at least that's in theory. I mentioned this earlier, AI alignment and control problems. The smarter it gets, we have to be concerned about keeping guardrails around it and what happens if it decides it's smarter than we are or knows better than we do, even if it thinks it's doing it for our own good. AI-generated disinformation, we've already seen this. Fake news, fake voices, fake videos, fake people at scale. It's getting harder to tell real from fake. And that's especially important in election years and even in conflict zones. And as you can imagine, some nations are already testing how to use this to influence outcomes as information warfare. Last thing, AI regulation is kind of a big, I'm not going to say a joke, but folks are still trying to figure that out because they're hard to get its arms around. AI is now seen as a strategic advantage and is lumped by the Defense Department in the same category as biological and nuclear weapons. The race to create and control systems that shape economies, warfare, and public opinion. So, some questions you might be thinking about. Is AI going to replace pastors, counselors, spiritual leaders? And the answer is no. But it will definitely try to imitate them. What role should churches play? The answer, we need to be at the table. How can we use AI for kingdom impact? A bunch of examples before: automate admin, customizing discipleship plans, translation, spotting gaps in pastoral care. Great uses, but what we can't do is we can't prioritize productivity and efficiency over the people that we're trying to reach. Biggest danger, somebody asked me this a while back, what's the biggest danger I see right now with AI? And quite frankly, that we stop thinking for ourselves. We let it finish our sentences, write our content, filter our news. Then we start trusting it to speak for us, make our decisions, and define our values. So what's one thing we can do this week? And the answer is start the conversation. Ask your team, how are we using AI? Pull a tool up, explore it together. Walk through the ethical framework. Just don't stay silent. You don't need to be an expert, you just need to engage right where you are. So, if this presentation stirred anything in you, questions, concerns, ideas, Chris is a crackpot, any of those things, don't let it stop at this session. Seriously, let's stay in touch. I'd love to hear how you're navigating this in your organization or your ministry. You can scan any of these QR codes, take a screenshot, grab my info afterwards, whatever's easiest. But if nothing else, reflect on this question sometime after this session. Where should I be leaning in and speaking up with biblical, ethical values in how AI or other technologies get used right where I am? That is a good place to start. So I hope you found some of this useful. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions, we've got a few minutes, I think, before our next presentation. But like I said, if you want to, reach out during this conference, afterwards, anytime. I love a good cup of coffee, and I will sit down with anyone and have a conversation with whatever you all want to talk about. So thanks a bunch. Appreciate you.